So my name is Don Hollander, and actually, given the average age of the people that I saw on that last slide, nobody here will know who I am. But for those of you who are at the other end, I used to be an IT guy in Wellington, and I was CIO for what is now Fairfax, for a company called Computerland, for TransPower, and for a hospital somewhere, a hospital in Invercargill. And now I have a secondhand bookshop in Newtown. So that's what retired IT people can aspire to. And the beauty is, if you think it actually through, having a secondhand bookshop in Newtown is actually fantastic. It's a fun gig for me. We get interesting people, and I get to play with technology a little bit. So I understand this e-commerce stuff from an end user. But that's not what I'm here to talk to you about. I want to talk about universal acceptance, which is a term that nobody's ever heard of. But let me ask some questions. How many people here have more than one email address? And the rest are lying. Okay. How many of you speak a language other than English? Speak or write a language other than English? So a fair number. So you can have email addresses and domain names in your script. So if you're from China, you can have a Chinese domain name. If you're from Thailand, you can have a Thai domain name. If you're from New Zealand, you can have a Maori domain name. But the applications of the real world, of which you guys actually write a fair number, stop people from using it. So I have a domain name called napukapuka.nz. So puka puka is book in Maori. Na makes it plural. There's a bar over the A. So napukapuka.nz. So my email address is toa@napukapuka.nz. Toa means shop. My bookshop in English is shop@bookhaven.co.nz. But I have found that generally I cannot use my toa@napukapuka.nz to engage with websites. I can't use it for TradeMe. I can't use it for Xero. I can't use it with government departments. I can't use it with the tax department, which I thought, well, maybe that means they can't send me the bills. They use New Zealand Post. But that's not fair. It's not fair to me as somebody who wants to use this different script, and it's not fair to those organizations who will put me and other people off from using it. Right? So universal acceptance is the idea that all domain names and all email addresses work in all applications, which if you say it slowly, you say, of course, that should be true. That's not unreasonable. So why is this important for Catalyst? So you guys are the best in the business. That's what the people that I've been working with here tell me regularly. And it's what the people outside of this organization also told me when I was looking for somebody to do some work for us. You're the best. You're highly respected, and you're highly envied, and you operate as role models. And I think you should be delighted. You're committed to open source, and you're committed to standards. You have an international staff, so it should be relatively easy. It's relevant for New Zealand and Te Reo. And what we really like about Catalyst is you guys have a commitment to putting back into the open source community. So we think you are a perfect place for part of our engagement. So anatomy of an email address. Now, you speak Chinese, so you can read this and translate. Well, So you have a username at example.com. You have something test5 at test. What's the last word? Which is work. Or in my case, toa at napukapuka.nz. So the username is your mailbox name. Since 2010, you could have that in non-English. You guys speak ASCII? You understand ASCII? So before 2010, you could only have ASCII in the mailbox name. Now you can have any of the Unicode characters that you want. The second level domain can be in ASCII or Unicode, and that's been available for a fair while. And it can be represented in Unicode or Punycode. Anybody know what Punycode is? More than I expected. So Punycode is an algorithm that takes a Unicode code point and converts it into a series of Unicode code points and converts it into an ASCII string that begins with xn --. So that's how you say if you try to register a domain name with xn --, you shouldn't be able to. And then the top level domain can be ASCII or Unicode now, can be represented in Unicode or Punycode, can be 2 to 63 characters, can only be from an authoritative list that's maintained by ICANN. And anybody has heard of ICANN? Yep. So ICANN is funding the Universal Acceptance Steering Group, and they're supporting it. Before 2010, there were about 200 or so country code top-level domains, .nz, .jp, .cn, .lk. Anybody know what .lk stands for? That's my favorite. Okay, there's a quiz. You can ask Dr. Google. My children learn geography through these country codes. Right. So what's changed? You now have more top-level domains. So there's 1,500 top-level domains that are available for people to register. Most of them are longer than 2 or 3 characters. They could be up to 63. I forget what the longest is, about 19 or 20. They're no longer in ASCII, and the list of top-level domains is no longer static. So when I was young, there were just a finite number of top-level domains. Most of them were 2 or 3 characters. All the ones that were actually used were 2 or 3 characters, and they were stable. So a lot of people just put them into a list, into their code. Well, you can't do that anymore because these things are happening all the time. New ones added, and some of them actually being taken away. And that's a key bit. So here's some names. AAA, accountant. Anybody an accountant here? Nobody's admitting. Amex.asia.kiwi, and so forth, because I can't pronounce any but .moskva. And the mailbox names, as I said before. So I have registered .santaclaus.mrsclaus.ms. No, .santaclaus.mrsclaus.ws as an emoji. Because I'm no longer technical, I haven't figured out how to get the mail service working, but that's my summer project. So these things have changed, and they've changed 2010. The RFCs changed before 2010, but they came into production in 2010. That's almost 8 years ago now. And coders have missed it, and that's not fair to the users, and it's not fair to the businesses, right? There are 5 verbs, and I'll finish here probably. The slides have more detail, and I've got some brochures if you want. But there's five verbs that we're asking developers to focus on. One is when you accept the input, whether it's from a keyboard or from a data file, make sure that you can accept a full email address and a full domain name. Then when you validate it, how many people use regexes when they're doing validation of email addresses? Yeah, stop. Okay, please do it properly. Use a library. If the library doesn't exist in the application that you're working in, fix it or build it. This is where the biggest issues. We did some research earlier this year where we looked at the top 1,000 domain names of the world, and we tried to create accounts there, tried to register using a variety of email addresses. 7% accepted all our email addresses. 7%. Similarly, 7% rejected all our email addresses, including ASCII. They were ASCII dot longer than 3 characters. And we looked in the code, and the reasons that the ones that were rejecting because they used regex. And I thought, okay, well, that's pretty easy. They must all use pretty much the same regex. And you guys are creative buggers. And you want to be unique, so you'll go on to Stack Overflow or GitHub, and you'll say, I need a regex for this, and somebody says, oh, yep, here's one. It's a good one. I use it. You say, oh, yep, that's good, but I want to make it better. So we thought, before we looked behind the scenes, we thought we would just tell everybody, we would find it, and then we would fix it. Well, no. Anyway. Don't forget Arabic, right? So if you're saying you're going to test something on the left and something on the right, so in Arabic, you're testing the wrong way around. And that's why we think regexes are just not a good solution. But if you think you've got a perfect regex that people can use, send it to me, and I will make you famous. Storing, make sure your database is able to accept the data. So if you're dealing with Unicode, make sure it accepts Unicode. Make sure the fields are long enough, that sort of stuff. Processing, make sure that you're taking these things into consideration. So if you're receiving both Punycode and Unicode data, make sure you know how you're dealing with it in your application and be consistent, so that when you're comparing to strings, or you're sorting, or whatever else that you might do with it, that you do it the way it should be, and make sure that you're able to display it the way people expect it to be. So I think that's well more than my 15 minutes. This is our target audience, which is you guys, principally, your customers, principally, and other influencers. Our target audience is not the general public. Why bother? It's the right thing to do is the short answer. And the longer answer is it's the right thing to do, particularly for your clients, so that their customers or their stakeholders or whoever can engage. And we expect the next billion internet users, which is why we have the little slide here, to come from non-English character communities. So another 400 million in China, another 600 million in India. Well, there's a billion there. Plus you have Thailand, you have Eastern Europe, North Africa, and the Middle East. We think it's easy. We think it's mostly a bug fix, particularly for newer applications. And most major email systems are either ready or will be very soon. And the last one, the Universal Acceptance Steering Group is a community of volunteers from the internet community. We get financial and administrative support from ICANN. They paid for the banner, for example. We're building very good documentation. I think it's very good documentation. UASG.tech. So .tech is one of these new TLDs. We're doing evaluations and reaching out to audiences like this. And Catalyst is helping in this. So one of the things we wanted to do is look at social media and messaging systems within Facebook and QQ and 20 some odd other ones that you'd never heard of. How ready are they? And that's what Catalyst stepped up to do, and we're grateful. And that report is, I'm promised, will be a Christmas present, or before Christmas. Maybe it'll be a Hanukkah present. You're on the third day already. Hanukkah last day. Okay, and that's it. So thank you very much. And I don't have to choose either or, right?
No, we'll let you go. Thank you, God.